we're going to begin by making a slip knot, which we do by wrapping the yarn to form a loop, and then we're going to wrap this tail underneath our loop so it comes across the middle. Pull this piece up a little and then pull both ends to make a slip knot. I'm going to tighten this up a little. I only need it to be a little bit larger around than my hook. When I put my hook through it and tighten it up. I don't want to tighten it a lot. There's still a little bit of, just a little bit of space in there, you can see. Okay? Now remember that if I'm looking at my hook this way, I will always wrap my yarn clockwise around my hook. I'm going to start with making the base chain for my bracelet. I'm going to make the child size, but it will apply equally well to the adult size bracelet. So I'm going to start by making 21 chains, but if you're making an adult size bracelet, you'll need to make 26. Alright, so I hold my yarn. If I put the yarn across my hand, then I'll put my index finger over it and bring it up so that it curls around my index finger. I use these two fingers for tension control, and then I use my thumb and middle finger to hold right by my hook to hold the loop open. I hold my crochet hook like a knife. You can also hold yours like a pencil if that's more comfortable for you. I find it easier to hold it like a knife. And I put my index finger on this loop so that it only moves when I want it to. Alright, so I'll start by making 21 chains, and I'm going to wrap the yarn around the back of my hook, and I will turn the hook as I pull it through the loop. Wrap the yarn around your hook, pull it through the loop. Wrap your yarn around the hook, turn and pull it through the loop each time. Okay, I now have 4 chains. I need 21. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. Alright, my row 1 instructions say skip first chain, single crochet in each remaining chain. So, to skip the first chain, first I need to find it. It is right here. So I'm going to go into the second chain. I'll do that by going in here and through here. And this is how it looks. Alright, now because my yarn is coming off on this side, I'm still going clockwise, but I'm just going to wrap the yarn around the front of my hook. I'll pull that through the chain, slide my hook back through, wrap the yarn around the hook, and turn it as I pull it through those 2 loops. That makes a single crochet. Now I'll put it into the next chain, wrap across the front of my hook, turn as I pull it through the chain, slide it, wrap around the back of my hook, turn as I pull it through both loops. I'm going to continue this in every chain. Alright, now I'm working into the last chain here. If you're making the adult size bracelet, you'll still have a few more chains to go, but you'll complete them just like all the others. Alright, at the end of my row 1 instruction, it says that I should have 20 single crochet if I am making a child size bracelet. I should have 25 if I'm making the adult size bracelet. So I can go back and count my stitches to make sure I have the right number. This is how it looks. The end of my row 1 instruction says to turn. I'm going to do that just by flipping this around so that it's ready to be worked back the other direction. Alright, the beginning of row 2 says chain 2, so I will wrap the yarn around my hook, turn the hook head as I pull it through the loop. Wrap the yarn around my hook and turn the hook head as I pull it through the loop. Next, It says does not count as a stitch now and throughout. That's just to tell me that when I'm counting up stitches after I finish this row, this will not count as a stitch. Next it says half double crochet in first 2 single crochet. So I will wrap the yarn around my hook, find my first stitch, which is right here. If I look this way, I can see the V pattern across the tops of my stitches. But if I look this way, I can kind of see that there is a little valley here, here, here. That's where my hook goes in, right there. Alright, now the yarn will go across the front of my hook. I will pull it through the stitch, slide it, wrap the yarn around my hook, and pull through all 3 of those loops. Again, for the next one, I will wrap the yarn around my hook, put it into the next stitch, wrap across the front of my hook, pull through the stitch, slide it up, wrap the yarn around my hook, and pull through all 3 loops. Alright, next it says chain 1, so I'll wrap the yarn around my hook and pull it through the loop. Next I will skip the next single crochet, half double crochet in each remaining single crochet. So the next one is here, but I'm going to skip it. I'm going to work into this one next. So I'll wrap the yarn around my hook, go into this stitch, wrap across the front of my hook, pull through the stitch, wrap the yarn around my hook, pull through all 3 loops. And that leaves a hole. That's going to be my buttonhole. Alright, now I'm just going to go the rest of the way across, work a half double crochet in each single crochet. I'm busy. Annie, I'm busy right now, please. I am busy right now, please. All right, the beginning of, let's see, I finished row 2. This is how it looks right now. At the end of my row 2 instruction, it says that I should have 19 stitches if I'm doing the child size bracelet, or 24 stitches if I'm doing the adult size bracelet. So I can go back and count those if I want to and make sure I have the right amount. This space here where we made the buttonhole, the chain at the top of it doesn't count as one of those stitches because we're only counting the number of half double crochets that we have. The end of my row 2 instruction tells me to turn. I do that by flipping it this way. And at the beginning of row 3 it says chain 2. So I will wrap the yarn around my hook, pull it through the loop, wrap the yarn around my hook, and pull it through the loop. And again, this chain 2 will not count as a stitch if I go back and count my stitches at the end of this row. It says to double crochet in each half double crochet to the chain space. So I will work a double crochet stitch in each of these stitches until I get to the chain space. Alright, I do that by wrapping the yarn around my hook, putting it into my stitch, which is here. Wrap the yarn across the front of my hook, pull it through the stitch, wrap the yarn around my hook, pull it through 2 loops, wrap the yarn around my hook, pull it through 2 loops. Again, I will wrap the yarn around my hook, put it into the stitch, wrap it across the front of my hook, pull through the stitch, wrap it around my hook, pull through 2 loops, wrap it around my hook, pull through 2 loops. Okay, now when we're trying to find the where we're supposed to put the hook on these half doubles, it's really easy because you can actually see daylight through the spot where the hook goes. Here, 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 that's where it goes. Okay? So we're going to work these across until we get to that chain space. I know. Okay, I have double crocheted in each half double crochet to the chain space. Now the next part says double crochet in chain space. So I will wrap the yarn around my hook, and I'm just going to put it through this hole. That's the space under the chain. That's why we call it a chain space. I will wrap the yarn across the front of my hook and complete the stitch just like I have all the others. Next, my instruction says double crochet in last 2 half double crochet. So I will just continue just like I was in these next 2 stitches. Alright, next it says turn, and that's actually a mistake on my part. It doesn't need to say turn there because we're finished. That's our last row. Then it tells me I should have 20 stitches for a child size bracelet or 25 for an adult bracelet, and that is just the stitches in this row. So I can go back and count them if I need to make sure that I did it correctly. Then it says fasten off. I'll take my scissors, leave myself a good amount of tail there, cut it, and then I will wrap that yarn around my hook, pull it through the loop and pull it all the way through. Then I'll pull the tail tight, and that makes a knot so that it won't come undone. Next, the finishing instruction says sew the button on end of bracelet opposite buttonhole. So that means, let's see, my buttonhole is here. So my button is going to go on this end, on the opposite end. And I don't want to put it right on the end. I want to put it in a little ways, maybe on the 2nd or 3rd stitch in. I'm going to sew it here. If my yarn needle will fit through the holes of my button, then I can sew it on with yarn and my yarn needle, but this one won't fit. So I would just use a sewing needle and some thread to sew this button on here. Okay, my next instruction says weave in ends. I do that with the yarn needle. Okay, if you look at this yarn, you can see that it twists this way. So I'm going to use my fingers, roll it between my fingers to twist it up extra tight because that makes it smaller. Then fold it in my fingertips. And then I'm going to take the eye of the needle and rub it back and forth across this and push it through. Alright? Now to weave in my ends, I do that on the wrong side of my fabric, on the back. Really, in this bracelet, you could probably call whichever side you want the wrong side, but alright, and I just run it through some of the loops that are on the back of the fabric. I don't want to put it all the way through the fabric because then it's going to show on the right side of my bracelet. So I just run it under some of the loops so that it's woven into the middle of my fabric where I'm not going to see it very well from either side. Okay, now if I have a little bit of that, as long as my end is nice and long, if there's a little bit that I don't get woven in, that's okay. You probably want to have at least 4 inches of tail woven in, and that's to help make sure it doesn't come out. And I'll do the same thing with this other end. And once my ends are woven in and my button is sewn on, my bracelet is finished and I can wear it. And that is how you make the beginner bracelet.